Hello, Year 3. This is your English video for Friday, the 22nd of January. And today, what we're going to be looking at is generating dialogue between characters and using inverted commas. Now, if you remember, all the way back before Christmas, we was looking at inverted commas, and we know that they're used for speech. Okay, so we really need to think about that today. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to think about each part of our planning that you did. So the 5 different parts, and we're going to be creating a little bit of speech so that we can build up some ideas for when we write our story next week. So let's go down to the first part, and you can already see it. It says part 1, setting description. So let's go down. So you can see here that I've got a guy, man, and my man is Stanley. This is Stanley. And Stanley, in my first part of my story, he's going to visit his Auntie Susan. So over here, you can see Auntie Susan. Doesn't she look super cool? So what we're going to do, we're going to be thinking about a little bit of speech that Stanley and Auntie Susan can be talking about in that first section, okay? So let's move on to actually writing it. So I've got my text box, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to write a little bit of speech that Stanley has said to his Auntie Susan. So if you think about the first part, he's gone to his, in my story, he's gone to visit his Auntie Susan. Your character, either Stanley or Emily, might be going to visit somebody else. I know some people are going to visit their grandparents. It could be anybody. So what Stanley is going to say is, please can I go out and explore? And he's asking a question there. So what he's going to do, what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a question mark. All right, just going to make that a little bit smaller so it can fit in my speech bubble. Okay? But there's something missing, Year 3. Can you remember what's missing? I'm missing my 66 and my 99, my inverted commas. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my 66 at the beginning, my inverted commas at the beginning, and my 99 at the end of his speech there, of the dialogue. So please can I go out and explore? There's a question, so it's got a question mark, and it's got its 66 and the 99 to put the sentence all together. So my sentence there for Stanley is done. Tick. What we're going to do now, we're going to have a look at something that Auntie Susan can say back to Stanley. So what could Auntie Susan say? She could say, yes, go on, dear, go and explore. She could say, I don't know if the weather is right. She could say, don't be long, it's nearly tea time. So I'm going to go with my last one. Don't be long, it's nearly tea time. So I'm going to start with my no, I'm not. I'll pop them in after. Don't. So remember, that is our contraction, isn't it? 2 words joined together with an apostrophe in. Don't be long. It is nearly time. And I'm going to finish with an exclamation mark. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add my 66 and my 99, my inverted commas. There we go. And you can set it out in exactly the same way if you want. You could just write Stanley's name or Emily, and then the character that they're meeting, and write the sentence of what they're going to say. But please remember the inverted commas. So if I zoom out a little bit, you will be able to see it a little better. So setting description, please can I go out and explore? Don't be long, it is nearly tea time. So let's move on to the second part. All right, Year 3? So we've moved on to the second part, part number 2. And in this part, my character Stanley, he's fallen off the cliff. Down, 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 down he falls, and he's landed in a cave. Disaster. So this is starting to be the build-up of my problem, okay? So what I'm thinking about now is that in this section, there's nobody else other than Stanley. But people do talk to themselves. You'll hear Miss Dunn talking to herself in class. So I'm going to create a little bit of dialogue for Stanley when he's talking to himself. So if you think of someone who's fallen down, maybe trapped in a cave, got their feet tangled, they need rescuing. What I was thinking of writing is, I do not have any idea how I am going to get out of this situation. Now that's just something Miss Dunn has thought of, something that's come to Miss Dunn's head. You might think of something slightly different. I'll just move myself out of the way. Oop, spelling mistake. So what I'm going to do there, I'm going to change it. I've purple penned my work just as we do in class. Okay, you can see I've purple penned it there. What do I need to do now, Year 3? I need to add my inverted commas, don't I? So I'm going to put them at the beginning and I'm going to put them at the end. Oh, dearie me, that's not a good inverted comma, is it? Right, let's move on to part 3, the third step in our planning, and we're going to be looking at this and seeing who the character is talking to. Now, we're on part 3, which is when we've got the problem. Now, if you look at my pictures, you can tell that Miss Dunn has turned into an artist overnight. I hope you are super proud of me, Year 3. So what we're going to do, this is the section where my character Stanley meets my character Flig, who is Stig as well. Well, instead of Stigs, should I say. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create that bit of dialogue, that bit of speech when they first meet each other. Now, I can't actually remember how it happens in the story. It was that long ago that we read it. So what we're going to do now, Miss Dunn's going to think about a little bit of speech that Stanley can say to Flig, and then maybe something that Flig could say backwards. So let's think about Stanley first. So I'm going to think that Stanley knows that Flig isn't like a normal human being, so to say. So he's going to start with, no, who are you? So he's corrected himself when he's saying, who are you? So he's saying it in that way. So that's my little bit of speech there. What do I need, Year 3? I need my inverted commas. There we go. Let's add them on the end as well to close the speech, the dialogue. There we go. Well done, superstars. Thank you for helping me. So now what we're going to think about is the speech that Flig could be saying back. Now, in Stig of the Dump, if you remember, Stig doesn't talk in whole sentences. He just uses the odd word here and there. He tries to make a sentence, but it doesn't necessarily make sense. So I'm going to roll with the same idea. So I'm going to think of Flig as someone who's quite beastly. Thinking about like if you've ever watched Tarzan and how Tarzan reacts when he meets Jane. So I'm going to write me, Flig. And I'm remembering that I'm using my capital letters for my characters. Okay, it is super important because our characters are nouns. So me, Flig. Flig lives here. Okay, so me, Flig lives here. And he's saying there basically that Stanley is in Flig's house, the cave. So I'm going to add my inverted commas just as we would do, just to finish off that little bit of dialogue. Super duper do. Right, on to the next bit, part number 4. So Miss Dunn forgot to say that in part number 3, Stanley and Flig find all the different materials and they're thinking about building something, which is why it's such a problem. So what they're going to do, obviously, it's a problem because there's nothing to stick together, etc. So in part number 4, what we're going to do, we're going to create a little bit of speech talking about how they can build it together using Stanley that talks in English, Flig that uses little bits of English but doesn't have another language. So how that communication works between them both. So let's use that from before. Delete the words. There we go. Right, so Stanley could be saying to Flig, I need, oh, capital letter, I need your help, Flig. Please, can you pass me the hammer? So again, asking another question. So I'm just going to shrink that down so I can get it into the speech bubble. Will that work? Ooh, I'm going to be pushing it a little bit. I think I need to make this speech bubble a bit bigger. Oh, that's a bit better, isn't it? So remember, once you've done this, you need to add the inverted commas. You could also do the inverted commas before you even write the speech. That might make it a bit easier. So my inverted commas done. Right, let's move on to the part where Flig answers back. So I'm going to think that Flig doesn't necessarily know what a I nearly said hamster, doesn't necessarily know what a hammer is. You mean, and I'm going to think of another word for a hammer. So what could we call it? I've got an idea. You mean stick block. So Stig's answering back in a question. Now, I know that stick block isn't a usual word that we'd use. Miss Dunn has just made it up on top of her head then. But, ooh, lots of boxes there. So, but I've used it because a hammer is on a stick and it's got like a big metal block on the end, hasn't it? So we can tap all the nails or those twisty screws, not the actual screws, like Miss Dunn's going on, like hammers with the little screw heads on. So you mean stick block. So I'm going to add that there. Remember, inverted commas. That's a really big inverted comma. I'll have to match that now. There we go. Right, so you mean stick block. So Flig's got a little bit confused there. Let's move on to the final part number 5, where Stanley makes his way back to his Auntie Susan's. So now in part number 5, the ending, or as other people can call it, the conclusion of the story, what we're going to think about is that my character Stanley has got back to his Auntie Susan's house and he's telling Auntie Susan all about his day. But if you remember, does Auntie Susan believe Stanley? She doesn't, does she? So Stanley has rushed all the way back to his Auntie Susan's house, so excited to tell her all about his wonderful day. So, Auntie Susan, what a day I have had. I met what could we call a man? I'm going to go with the word creature. A creature called Flig. He was a very kind king. What's Miss Dunn doing? Very kind, yet hairy thing. I'm going to put on like a hairy thing. So I popped that in there. It's a bit of a squish, this one. Doesn't matter. So that is my piece of speech from Stanley to Auntie Susan. So I'm going to put my inverted commas. I know they're out of my speech bubble. Doesn't matter. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to think about what Auntie Susan is going to say back to Stanley. And I don't think she's necessarily going to believe him, do you, Year 3? Oh, lovely name for an imaginary friend. And I'm going to leave it there. Adds that little bit of mystery. Now, remember, you can really think about what you've done over the past couple of days with all the characters' thoughts and the feelings, and you can incorporate that into the speech now. So you can think of that Flig might be discombobulated, Stanley could be discombobulated, or even Emily, they might be feeling a little bit lost, they might be feeling anxious, all those amazing words, you can really bring them in. Now, you don't need to set it out like Miss Dunn has. You could set it out and you could, I'll show you an example. You could set it out like Miss Dunn has with the pictures and the writing, but I know that some of you will spend a lot more time on the drawing rather than the actual writing. So what you could do, you could set it out like this. So Stanley, Stanley, and you could say, oh, Auntie Susan, I have had a wonderful day. For example, I'll put my inverted commas in there, and then underneath I could write Auntie Susan, just like I have on this part here. So Stanley and then Auntie Susan. So, oh, what a lovely name for an imaginary friend. And I'll leave it as that. So you could set it out in that way, or you could do what I've done. But remember, I want the whole 5 parts doing today. So you really, really need to think about your ideas. We need the whole 5 parts doing today because on Monday we are going to be writing our own chapter. We're going to be writing it up. So I hope that's okay, Year 3. I hope that describes what we're supposed to be doing today. Any problems, please send me a message on Class Dojo and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Please take your time with this piece, and remember the most important part is using inverted commas with your dialogue, or speech as some people call it. Okay, superstars, good luck. See you soon.